Bonjour, everybody. Bonjour. Dinaway Maganadog. Hello, all my relatives. Ivy, Min, Shagi Nashimong, Wanukwe, Ojoboimo, Nigamin, and Dunjaba, O Nigaminsin, and Da, AICHO, and Dananoki. Hello, everybody. My name is Ivy Vineo. I work for AICHO in Duluth, American Indian Community Housing Organization. And my pronouns are she, her. And welcome to today's Indigenous food cooking demo with Dene Chef Brian Yazzie. We're so excited. We've been waiting for this for about a month and a half or longer. And I want to, I don't know if all of you had seen that Brian Yazzie was featured on CBS News this weekend on Saturday. The Slice, it was pretty cool feature, and got to learn a little bit more about him and his life and his dream of becoming a chef and cooking for the people. And so before I turn it over to Brian, I wanted to give thanks to our funders for this session, and that is the Minnesota Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Division through our Wasaya Traditional Healing Grant, and then also First Nations Development Institute. They are our funders, so thank you to them. And for those that are just joining us, the rules of engagement for this Zoom session is we would like for you to keep yourself muted and also do not share your video. So if you can turn your video off, that would be great. Thank you very much. If you have a question, please put that in your chat, and I will be asking that to Brian. And he has informed me that while he's cooking, if you have a question about what he's doing or what he's adding or whatever, just put it in the chat and I will ask him right away. And then Becky Nelson, my wonderful Zoom tech assistant, is on here. And if you have trouble with the Zoom and trying to connect or having an issue, send her a private message and she can try to walk you through that. I am recording this session and I will be posting that on our Facebook, the American Indian Community Housing Organization Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And so that will be, and I will be emailing it out to all the registrants, because there are some people that emailed today that said they couldn't make it. And we'd also at this moment would like for all of you, if you would, to put where you are, like where you live, so we can kind of see the geography of our registrants. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Chef Brian Yazzie.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Good afternoon, good evening. Hello, Yazzie. My name is Brian Yazzie. I am Navajo. I am from a small community called Navajo, Arizona, which is located on the northeast part of the Navajo Nation. And if you are familiar with Matamata Valley, that is basically my backyard, you know, so about 10 minutes south of Matamata Valley, where I'm from. Small community, you know, probably about 7,500 max, you know, so that's where I'm from. And I grew up on the reservation and in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. And a quick backstory for me, before I get to the demo. Me, I started cooking at the age of 7. So just a passion for cooking out of nowhere. Well, not out of nowhere, but out of the unconditional love that my mom had for myself and my 8 siblings. You know, being the youngest out of 8, I was always left behind at home. You know, my older siblings are out playing, doing whatever. You know, so I remember one day at the age of 7, I was watching Gargoyle. You know, that was popular back then, the original Gargoyle. And my mom came home, and instead of coming home to relax, she went straight into the kitchen. So, and I seen that, and after like about 30 minutes to an hour, the smell, what some type of soup that she was making, and the knife tapping on the cutting board, that curiosity brought me to the kitchen at the age of 7. And ever since then, I love outdoor cooking, cooking outdoors, backyard parties, grilling, whatever to do with fire, I'm all for it. So that was my passion, of how I found cooking. And it wasn't until 2012, 2013, when my wife and I moved to Minnesota. And for her, she knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to go back to school to become a nurse. But for me, I wasn't sure. I was doing odd jobs for labor work, rod busting, carpentry. So I was doing that type of work, and I didn't receive my high school diploma until the age of 25. Going through 4 different high schools on and off the reservation, going through detention centers, going through in and out of county jails, getting stabbed at, getting shot at. That was the environment that I was introduced to as a fatherless child. I looked at the streets and looked at guys, who ran the streets. That was the people that I looked up to. So that's the way I was brought up. But it wasn't until I met my wife. We moved here to Minnesota in 2013, and I received a brochure in the mail from St. Paul College one day, and I seen the shiny appliances, the knives, the produce, the meat, all on this brochure, and I went to their open house, and I compared the open house with Cordon Bleu when they were still open, so, and I went with St. Paul College on culinary arts, and 2.5 years for an AAS degree in culinary arts. So it wasn't until in culinary school that I found my passion or found my path with indigenous foods in the culinary world. I remember a group of friends, we had a project of picking one dish from one cuisine from throughout the world, picking one dish. And I was looking at Southern cuisine, I was looking at Japanese cuisine, so, and I started seeing a lot of tomatoes, a lot of corn, a lot of squash, a lot of chilies. And I started researching and looking into that, and I realized that over 50% of ingredients within each food culture across the world are ingredients that have come from the Americas, and there were a lot of mentors that have been, that have taught me, and just gaining the knowledge that not only have our ancestors provide manifest destiny or colonization, but so has our food, and not just that, but they help supply the world, so that's what I learned as a culinary student, and it blew my mind. So I wasn't just looking into my Navajo food culture, but the Ojibwe and Dakotas, being in this homeland, and just looking at across the board. So that was my path of culinary art. So I started pursuing that. I started researching, implementing more native ingredients into the daily menu on campus. And my wife and I started a Native American club on campus in 2014. There was no representation of just Native American population on campus. So we started this club, and our first event was White Treaties Matter in the Midwest. And we're looking for a Native caterer. And she found Sean Sherman on social media, the sous chef, now he's known as. So that was the year that he started his company in 2014. So we invited him, and it was a beautiful appetizer that he put out. Most of the ingredients, I did not know what they were. He was explaining to me what they were, and we found out I was a culinary student. So ever since then, 2014, I started working with him. When I wasn't working on camp or going to school, I was out working with him, and 2.5 years, I probably got an average of 4 hours of sleep, and I came up to play cooking in 2 worlds, being on campus, learning different types of ingredients, using gluten, dairy, processed sugar, pork, chicken, beef, right? And then stepping off campus and working with the sous chef, I had to exclude all that out of my mind and use just indigenous ingredients, big colonial ingredients, if you may, so, and that was a challenge for me as a student, but, it molded me to be who I am today, so I graduated in 2016 with an AAS degree in culinary arts. And, that same year, Sean and I, we had a conversation to see if I still wanted to be part of the sous chef catering, or if I wanted to branch out and move on, with the same mission, the same concept, just branching out. So I ended up doing that, which was a blessing. And my wife and I, we came up with Intertribal Food Ways, which is a mobile catering company, and we travel internationally. And so that's a bit of my backstory of where I come from, how I got to cooking, and where I'm at now. And currently, where I'm at now is we're at the Gatherings Cafe inside the Minneapolis American Indian Center in South Minneapolis. I started working here with the team back in March, beginning of the pandemic. I stayed home for a couple of weeks. I self-quarantined, and instead of being active on social media, I wanted to do something more, to reach out to the community in the city, to see where I can help with the network that I have, and how I can help the community. So the former executive chef here, Ben Shindu, I gave him a call and I asked, are you guys hiring? Are you guys need volunteers? Do you guys need someone on the line to cook? Are you guys feeding the community? So I found out that him and the executive director of the Indian Center, Mayor Lagarde, they were looking for a group of people to start up a project of feeding the native elders in the community. So I ended up helping lead that project, because I didn't have anything else going on. My catering was halt, so there's nothing else for me to do. So I ended up taking a project, and we've been working 5 days a week for 8 months now, since mid-March. We probably took about 3 weeks off in between, but this is something we've been doing from the beginning. And we started with a grant from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and now we're sponsored by World Central Kitchen, Jose Andreas, and they've been sponsoring us ever since July, I believe. So, and the same concept and the philosophy that I have is something that I input here with feeding the elders. We use at least 50% of native ingredients, and we first reach out to native vendors, native food producers, farmers, foragers, to reach out to those communities first before we started using Allied Connection as a co-op or even chain stores if we have to. So that's the philosophy that we're doing here, food is medicine. Especially during the time of the pandemic, the elders need their immune system strong as possible. So that's where we're at now, and that's the project that I'm a part of here, feeding our elders. And besides that, back in September, I was given the opportunity to take over the cafe as an executive chef, and I was blessed with the opportunity, and I'm happy to say that I'm the new executive chef here. And we'll be doing a re-grand opening in January, I believe. And if everything goes right, and we're looking to a new name, a new brand, just rebranding the whole cafe is something we'll be doing. So, and you guys will be hearing about that soon. All right, so that's just a little backstory about me, where I'm from, the work that I do, and currently what I'm doing now. And I know I'll be talking for a while, so I got most of the stuff pre-cooked, so I'll explain to you what I'm doing here today. So we're doing a heirloom squash and chaga soup. It's more of like a seasonal dish. So right here I have one of the squash called really old cool squash. So that's why I have a smaller one here. It's from Dream of Wild Health Farm in Hugo, Minnesota. So this is something that was roasted with just olive oil, salt, and just a bit of a maple syrup. So that's what I rubbed on, and I put the space down, and I roasted at 400 degrees for about 15 to 17 minutes, depending on the type of oven you have at home. And the chaga is what I purchased at a gift store inside the in Duluth at the American Indian Community Housing Organization. And so we have that, and I have some here that I blended up already. The chaga starting to powder. You can run it through a blender. You can use, if you have a cheese grater, you can use that. But I recommend using a coffee grinder or a blender. Or if you have one of these at home, if you have access to one of these, this is great too. You can definitely use this. All right, so that's what I have here. It's already into powder form. So, and I have sumac here as well. Sumac will be going with the maple syrup. And the sumac here is fresh, is a forage over the summer or just a couple months ago. So staghorn sumac, no, it's what I usually do is this is hard to take off the powder from the seeds. It's different from the sumac we have in the Southwest. You know, here it's more like they're like little seeds and they have powder on the outside. So it's definitely harder to get to the powder, right? But I have about probably half a cup here, and
We have
I
a
mixed it with
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Is this sumac different than the sumac spice used in Middle Eastern cuisine?
Yeah, yes, it's different. The one in the Middle Eastern sumac is more tart, and this one is more savory on the savory side. So what I usually do is that I put this through a blender, and just to see, run it through a blender, pulse it a couple times, and it'll separate the powder, the seeds, and then you can use the strainer and strain out the powder. You know, and the seeds, you know, when you're outside, you can just toss it back into the landscape. You know, you never know, it may grow back. And so that's what I have here, just the sumac powder. And we have some olive oil here from the native purchase. It's I have a big box here, so it's fields in California. They carry their own olive oil. So we're purchasing bulk items from the tribe in California. You know, we purchased a couple of pallets there that the wildfire, you know, just to help with their establishment. So that's what we'll be using here today. And let me see what else do we have. We have the walnuts here. I'm going to toast these again, but these are already covered with maple sugar, and I have it toasted with olive oil, so we have it kind of you know, sugar on the outside. But I'll toast it again and I'll chop it up. That can go on top of the soup. And the last thing I have here is the duck breast, and we just got it today from the local co-op. So I'll be doing I'll be cooking both of the breasts. So just to show you two different ways of doing that. Okay.
Brian, can
yeah.
you tell us again what you are cooking, what the end result is going to be?
Yeah, the end result can be a soup base. So it'll be more like a squash puree. It'll be mixed in with the chaga powder, and then I have juniper berries. I have cracked black pepper, garlic, salt. Let's see. Last case is ranch, so powdered ranch. So this is going to be used as well. So that's the base of the soup. And what's going to go on top is the duck. We're going to do a sumac and maple glaze on duck breast. And we're going to slice those up, put on top of the soup, and we're going to toast the walnuts, and that's going to go on top as well. So if we have pine nuts, if we have pinons or pepitas or sunflower seeds, those definitely work as well.
We have a question about what is the name of the co-op in Minneapolis, and is it open to the public?
Yes, so the one I usually go to is called Seaward Co-op, and it's right down Franklin Avenue, going towards St. Paul. So right before you cross the bridge on Franklin, you'll see the co-op on the right side. Or there's the Wedge Co-op in Uptown as well, just west of here on Franklin. Those are a couple of ones that I recommend. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in, start the soup. So I have the squash puree here, and I'm just gonna add what I had roasted earlier too. So I'm just gonna add that to it. So I'm just gonna combine all these ingredients. The squash, like I said earlier, you can roast it. You can put some olive oil, vegetable oil, some maple syrup. You have agave or honey, and salt. So you can rub that on, then put it face down, and roast it for about, depending on your type of oven, anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. We have the industrial oven, so this probably cooks about 7 minutes to cook. So I'm just taking out some of the flesh just to show you what I did. All right, so that's the squash after it's roasted. And then I'm gonna add the, where is that right here? I'm gonna add the seasoning. So this is just a basic. So for you, you can add whatever seasoning you want. You know, if you want spicy, you can add some red chili or green chili. Just don't add ketchup. No, I'm kidding. Let me see. Okay, so garlic, onion powder, juniper berries, black pepper, and ramp powder or onion powder. So that's what's in here.
Ryan, can you move the bowl over more to the stove? There, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we have here, and I'm just gonna add a pinch of the chaga powder, and I'm gonna triple that amount once I have it on the stove. So one more thing I'm gonna add is I need 2 cups of water. Give me 1 second. All right, you can use hot water, you can use cold water. If you have vegetable stock, if you have bison stock, any type of wild game, any broth, bone broth, you know, you can definitely add that instead of using water. So I like to use, sometimes I'm doing seafood, I like to save the stock, and I can add that in there as well. So now I have it mixed up. It was kind of watery, but there's still chunks of the squash in there. But I have all the seasoning I want inside of it. So I'll be right back. I'm going to blend this really quick. I just don't have the blender in front of me because it's way too loud. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm going to let that run for a minute, and I'm going to go and turn the heat up on the pot. So if you guys are watching me, I have the pot on low heat, just so for it to be nice and warm when I put the squash puree inside of it. That way it'll warm up quick. Okay, so that's almost done. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to move the camera here in a minute. We're going to start on the Dutch press. I'm going to turn it on low. Actually, you can get a different pan. All right. I'll use a larger pan just so you can see what I'm doing.
Okay, we have a question.
Yes.
Did you mention ramp?
Ramp? Yeah, wild onion.
And then, do you use the ramp bulbs or greens or both for the powder?
You can use the whole plant. You know, if you have access to the whole plant, you can use the whole plant. But you know, right now there's this. So I mean, right now it's all about sustainability and climate change. So instead of taking the whole wild onion out of the out of the landscape, what I would recommend. 1 second. All right. Grab some more water. Okay. So talking about sustainability, what I would recommend doing is when you're out foraging for wild ramps or any type of plant, I recommend just cutting off the part you need. You know, it's probably about an inch or 2 above the landscape, just to leave the bulbs in. You know, for next season. You know, and that's only for if you're. I don't like to use the word over forage, but you know, if you're going to be foraging more than you need, you know, I recommend like every other plant to leave the bulb in. You know, but you can definitely take out the bulb if you need to.
Okay, so
that is my response.
The recipe that you provided us doesn't mention ramp powder. So is that in the onion?
Yeah, I just wrote onion powder on this. All right, so I have the squash here, the squash puree that was roasted. And then I added the just a pinch of the chaga, the seasoning that I have. So I'm gonna add that to the pot here. All right, now I'm gonna turn it down. There we go. All right. So I'm gonna let that cook slowly. You know, it's only enough for me, you know, so it'll be done quick, but I'm gonna leave it on low. And right now, we'll start on with the duck. So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook the duck 2 different ways. There's one you can just place like that to skin down, or else you can cook some splits on top, you know, just to make it look fancy. So we'll do that to one. The second one, we'll keep the way it is. 1 second, my flame went out. Okay, back in business. All right. So I have my soup back here. It's, I have it on low right now. Okay. Then I have the duck, the pan I'm going to use for the duck. I have that on high. Now I'm going to add the, you don't need that much oil. It's probably about, I would say 1/4 of a cup. If you're doing, probably a little less than 1/4 of a cup if you're doing 2 duck breast. And the reason for that is the breast is gonna there's gonna be a lot of grease coming off of the skin, you know, and that you can use in the morning. You know, you can pour the oil back into a container, put it in the fridge. You can use that for your potato hash or whatever in the morning. You know, so all right. So how's that going? It's just about ready. It's already hot. Turn it down. All right, I'm gonna do the first let's see. All right. So I'm just gonna do this one here. I'm gonna cut some slits on top. You guys can see it's just you don't cut through the skin. You know, you don't if you see the meat, you know, you went too far. So you're just cutting the slit on top of the skin. You know, it may not look like it's a cut, but once you have it on the pan, it'll you'll definitely see it come out. So I'm just gonna do like the classic diamond shape. All right, you can do different designs on here. So one of the classic ones is just a cross cut. You know, so if I was doing this like a fine dining, you know, I would definitely take my time cutting the skin. You know, but right now we're on a time frame, so I'll just show you what it looks like. And then with this one, I'll just keep that one the way it is. You know, there's no cut from that one. All right. So as you can see, I don't have any seasoning on here. I'm gonna wait at the end with the sumac and the maple syrup. All right. Oh, I dropped one. I have one more back there, but we'll do one for now. Sorry about that. All right. Give me 1 second. We'll wash my rag. All right. We're down to one chicken breast. Duck breast. I did a demo earlier and I was doing turkey breast. So, all right. Got the pan nice and hot. I'll bring you guys closer right now. Actually, you know what? The one I dropped is the one that had the diamond cut. So let me redo this one. All right. Sorry about that, but maybe it happened for a reason, you know. So we purchased the whole duck from the co-op, and I ended up just cutting the breast. So we're gonna save the other parts of the duck. And I have a smaller piece of breast there, but I'll just save that. All right. I'll move this here, and then I'll move the camera. So I apologize that our kitchen space is a bit sideways. All right. You guys just see me? That's good. All right. This might get a bit smoky, just to let you know. All right, here we go. skin side down first. Now, some people usually do it with the skin side up first, but this is my way of doing it. Since I only have one duck breast in it, I'm gonna turn the heat down again. So like between medium and low heat. See, if I had the two breasts in here, the one I dropped, if I had that in here too, I would have kept the heat higher, because if you put more ingredients into the heat will kind of die out. It'll take a while for it to get hot again. You know, so this is a bit more oil than I needed for one duck breast, but it's okay. So instead of waiting 3 minutes, like I said for the recipe, we're going to do 2 minutes, because I only have one duck breast. So if you're doing two, go from 3 to 4 minutes. So it's already been about almost a minute now, so let me show you what the skin looks like. All right, see. It's almost there. Usually, you know, if they're missing with the food, you know, you have a chef or like culinary school, my instructor would have got mad at me. Because when you're cooking meat, or especially poultry, you know, with the stove, you can't really move the food around. You know, especially if you're doing beef, you know, when you're searing a ribeye or T-bone, you know, you can't really move the meat around, because you want that crust at the bottom. And that's what we're looking for with the duck. You know, but I just picked it up just to show you. All right. So the soup is pretty much done. It's already heated, but I have it at low heat, so that's okay. All right. Almost there. So now, like I said in the recipe, you should receive that. Now when I flip it, I'm going to turn the heat lower. It's just I want the bottom side to cook as well. So if you have a cooked duck yet, if you can see, usually it cooks about 1/4 of the way up, then you flip it, then it cooks the remaining side up. So the red part is starting to turn a bit brown. See that? So it's almost ready to be flipped. So it's a bit higher than half, but that's okay, because the skin is a bit smaller, but always cooking faster. So if you can see the difference between the red and the brown. All right, now I'm going to show you the skin side again. Oh, that's okay. So that's what we're looking for. So if you see a cook or a chef, you know, you burn your hand so many times. You know, so it's just that water splashing on you. No, I'm kidding. All right, so I turned the heat down now. I mean, I don't know if you can see, but the fat tripled the amount when we started with. You know, that's just coming from one breast. It's a lot of fat that came out. You know, which is the reason why, you know, this is the way that most culinarians cook duck, just to try and get most of the fat out. You know, but I'm not sure if you guys are interested in medium rare or what, but you know, with the poultry, you know, you go anywhere from 160 degrees, right? But if we're doing a bit lighter, I usually do about 145, 140, probably the least, just to be safe when you're cooking poultry. And I know if you go to fine dining, you know, sometimes it's nice and red on the inside. That's probably about temperature 120, 140. That's kind of on the iffy side, but it's okay. You know. But for me, I like to do about 140, 145. All right, so I'm just going to have it cook slowly, and I'm going to get the maple syrup and the sumac, and I'm going to put that on top here in a few. You guys have any more questions?
None yet.
All right, so I have the sumac powder here. I probably have about half a cup, probably. And I'm just going to use the whole thing. Not on here, but I'm gonna mix the maple in here, and I'm gonna save the what I have left for something else. So I'm just gonna pour the maple syrup in here. You can do this 2 different ways. You can heat the syrup in a pot and then add in the sumac and just let it marinate for a while. But this way, I'm doing the a bit faster way. So there's so many ways you can do this. Let's check on the duck here. As you can see, you can barely see some red right there, you know, but that's good. And once it sits for a while, you can kind of start to see the crease in the skin. And I'm going to have to flip it over one more time because I didn't really get the crust that I wanted. So I'm going to turn it back up just a bit.
Where did you get your maple syrup?
From, I believe, Spirit Lake. This was purchased from the Indian Center in Duluth.
Yeah.
So from their gift shop.
Okay, and we get it from Native Spirit Lake Native Farms in Sawyer on the Fond du Lac Reservation.
Okay, yeah.
Shout out to them, Bruce and Tawny Savage.
We just have a shipment of wild rice that came in today as well. So we have a shipment of 100 pounds of wild rice that came in from Spirit Lake as well. And we're going to be using that next week for the holidays. We're giving out gift baskets to the elders, and we're going to add a pound each of wild rice.
Oh, that's
All
great.
right.
We have a couple questions here.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to flip the skin out just about 30 seconds, and then I'll add the glaze to it.
Okay, so question one is, why collect the fat at the top instead of rendering? Is it a mouthfeel thing?
I believe it is, yeah. Like for me, you know, at home, you know, if I need the fat, then I would save it. But at home, I would just quickly sear it, you know. And there's a difference between quickly searing it and then letting it cook slow as well. All right, almost there.
Okay, and then the other question is, what ways do you use juniper berries? And do you use it as, do you use it in medicines?
Yes, you know, it's used in different types of tea as well, and it's also used in some Navajo ceremonies as well. You know, it's definitely medicinal. But at the same time, you know, it's definitely, I like to use it as an herb base as well. All right, so this is done. The top part is done. So I'm gonna let it sit for a minute while I finish the conversation. So for example, with you didn't see people cooking with sage, sweetgrass, cedar, most of the medicinal herbs until the last probably 5 to 10 years ago. You know, and what I mean by that is social media presence. You know, and just like the work that I'm doing, you know, we didn't really see that until the past probably 10 years. You know, and that's the reason why is because the food sovereignty movement started with a lot of food scholars. Not until 15, 20 years ago, you started seeing a lot of chefs come out, a lot of native chefs doing this type of work, you know, to caught on. You know, so with medicinal, what I was taught going to different tribal communities is that, you know, if you're nourishing the people, food is medicine, you know, why not use cedar? Why not use sage? Why not use sweetgrass? But at the same time, I'm going to turn the heat off. But at the same time, with the elders here, we can't use so much sweetgrass because it has some type of chemical in it that could affect the immune system of the elders if they drink too much tea or if I marinate it with something and I have too much of that flavor in it, you know. So, yeah, so, I hope that answers your question. All right, so I'm going to add the glaze to the top now. So it's like dark red. So, all right. I'm gonna start off with 2 tablespoons. All right, just right on top. All right, so now I'm gonna turn the heat back on. It's just kind of playing with fire. No, so I'm gonna put the heat on low, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do next. All right. You guys can see, okay. Got the heat on low as I can. All right. So you can see this, the maple syrup, the sumac are starting to bubble. So now I'm going to grab just the fat, the sumac, and the maple. I'm just going to cover it on top like that. You know, so we're just slowly helping cook the top as well. All right, so it's just helping cook. All right. All right. That's pretty much done. If I had 2 of the breast, you know, I would need more of that. You know, so I'm gonna let the maple, the sugar cook down a bit. So I'm gonna flip the skin one more time. There you go. All right, now I'm gonna let it sit there. And if you, I don't know if you ever had maple candy. What I like to do sometime at home is I let to have fat in there. That's okay. So when I take the meat out, I would let this bubble and slowly mix it with the spoon or fork. And just keep having it dehydrate the liquid. And then you'll start seeing like strings on the pan. That's when you can grab a fork and start swirling the maple candy. You'll get like a cloud, you know, and sometimes I added a little red chili powder in it just to get some spice in it. You know, and it has fat in it, but still, it's good. Similar to taffy. All right.
You just got a from De La Munoz.
All right, this is taking a bit longer than I thought. It's also, depending on the pan you use, this is a coated pan. So if you see the coated pan compared to the stainless steel, you know, so the coated pan is taking a bit longer to catch the heat again. So if you're using stainless steel, you know, it heats up quick. So that's the difference that I'm seeing here. All right. This is done. I turned the heat off. I'm just going to let it sit. I'm going to move the camera back on this side. We're just about done. Now, this is pretty simple. You can do at home. And once you cook it at home, you know your flavor profile. From there, you can add whatever you want. I like to do wild rice peel off with the duck as well, which is good. All right, remove the camera back and start plating the food here. So I think right now is a good time. If you guys have any questions.
Yeah, I think there was a question earlier that I forgot to ask, and somebody asked about where you can get bison.
Bison, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of native farms that carry bison, but during the pandemic, I realized that they're short-staffed, so it's kind of hard to get the shipment in. So right now, for us at a cafe, the main bison farm we go to is AICHO Bison, and that's just about 30 minutes north of here in Hugo, Minnesota. And so that's where we get a bison currently. You know, but Standing Rock Reservation, if you go Standing Rock, the bison, you know, you'll definitely look into seeing a bison farm there as well, run by one of the families of the tribe. So as you can see, I used a cutting board earlier for cutting the poultry, and there's not that many liquid of blood you see. So you know, what I do is I can just flip that. You know, so I have a brand new cutting board here, and just to be sure, I can wipe it. I have bleach rag here. You know, so the poultry's at the bottom. When I'm done, you know, I'll wipe the whole counter as well. So when you're in the rush, when you're doing the demo, you know, you can't go and watch the cutting board and then come back and do it again. So you know, it's best to flip your cutting board. All right, so my duck is done. I'm just letting that sit, and I have the squash here. Is there any more questions?
What cafe are you working at again?
Gatherings Cafe, inside the Minneapolis American Indian Center.
Is the scoring of the skin strictly decorative, or does it enhance the cooking?
Say it again.
Does the scoring of the duck skin, is it strictly decorative, or does it enhance the cooking?
Oh, it enhances the cooking. You know, just like having chicharrones or having you know, fried pig ears or having churros, right? That's basically what that is. If you fry the pig skin, you get the churros, or you get, you know, the pretzel-like texture. So with the duck skin, you know, right now it's nice and crispy. You can't really see it, but it gives you that texture. So when you bite into the duck meat, you know, you get that nice, moist meat. But at the same time, you get that crunch from the skin as well. You know, it's a really popular item in the fine dining restaurant. All right. So let me grab a spoon, and I'm going to take out the squash here. Any more questions?
I noticed that you didn't stir the soup at all when you were cooking it.
Yeah, so you probably seen me move it back and forth or just kind of circle it. So that way you don't really need to stir it because it's already pureed, it's already a liquid form. So, and then it's also the type of pan that I use. So if you see the bottom, it's probably about 1.5 inches, base. So using the pot, I won't burn the squash puree at the bottom. So which is why I was just circling, going back and forth, so I didn't have to scrape the bottom. Okay, so let me plate the squash here. I mean, however you want to do this, you can do a lot less squash and more of the meat, or you can do more of the soup and less of the meat, it's up to you. So I'm gonna grab this duck. Usually you wait about 5 to 7 minutes for the duck breast to rest. Any type of meat, well, besides chicken. So or even pork chop. But so with beef, especially with beef, what you do is when you sear the meat, you let it take it off the heat, you let it sit on the plate on the table for about 5 minutes. So that way, all the blood, all the juices, goes back. It goes back into the steak. That way, it's more juicy. So if it's still hot and you cut into it, and you get a lot of blood out of it, that's because the meat was still warm. You didn't let it sit. So that's what I'm gonna do here for about probably 2 minutes. But in the meantime, I have the base of the soup here. And one thing that I'm still gonna do is I'm gonna chop up some of the walnuts here. I was going to toast the walnuts again, but I feel like I might burn it because it's already toasted with pure maple sugar. You guys can see that. It's already toasted with maple sugar, so I'm just going to chop that up. Got a duck breast should be ready.
Okay, we have a question.
Yeah.
What flavor does chaga have? Is there any substitute if you don't have access to it?
Yeah, if you have amaranth, I would use amaranth flour. Right now is wild rice season. So if you have wild rice, raw wild rice, not cooked, get a medium-sized pan, dry heat, medium-high. When it starts to smoke, toss in your raw wild rice and make some puff wild rice. And then you can grind that up with your coffee grinder or blender, and you can use that powder instead of using the chaga. Very similar taste. It's savory, it's more like on the savory side, more like a mushroom type of taste, It's definitely what that is. So I recommend trying wild rice. You guys might like that. Or if you have access to acorn flour on the West Coast, you have family or friends in California that have the traditional acorn, definitely use that, acorn flour. All right, so I got this chopped up. It's ready to go.
You just got another
Give me 1 second. All right, so now I'm just gonna grab the crumbs here. Is all I need. There are so many ways of making soup or stew. You don't have to put everything in one pot and cook it together. You can cook everything separate, and you can compose at the end. All right. I'm gonna cut the duck breast. I'm gonna move the cutting board. 1 second. We might be in time, I'm not sure. We may have 10 minutes, I believe. Let's see.
10 minutes.
Okay. All right, so this is good. With everything we need. All right, I'm gonna cut the duck breast now so you guys can see. It might still be a bit bloody, because I didn't have it rest for as long as I wanted. Usually when you get like duck breast, usually it's more on the colder side. It's not as warm. That's because you let it sit. And if you get it kind of hot and warm, it's probably that they were in a rush. Or if you get it in a frost, or if you get it in the in a different type of style soup, you'll definitely get the fully cooked duck breast. All right, so I'm a left-handed, so let me see if I can try and turn this way. All right. So just slowly, just about probably 1/4 of an inch, especially for cooking for 4 or more at home. 2 duck breasts goes a long way. Definitely a delicacy for some tribes. This one is more medium rare. So I'll probably say this tip is probably like at 130, 135. Being a culinary student, you get that embedded in your head. Just looking at the meat, looking at the texture, and kind of feeling the heat beneath your fingers, you kind of become that temperature yourself. So let me see. All right, so I'm gonna bring the camera closer. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so same as the chaga. So what flavor does sumac have, and are there any substitutions you would recommend?
Yes, substitution for sumac would be lemon, lime. I like to use sumac because with the indigenous foods that I cook with, sumac replaces the lemon and the lime flavor. It replaces the acidity of the flavor profile when you're cooking. So that's why I like to use sumac. It replaces that lemon flavor.
And then could pheasant breast be cooked this way as well?
Yes. Yes, but I would say look into the type of pheasant, the type of family, the type of bird, and the size of it. It definitely depends. The pheasant will definitely cook faster than a duck breast. So you'll definitely see some blood here, but that's okay. So it's a bit red, but that's okay. So usually this is how, nice crispy skin on the top. Then you get that sweet flavor from the maple syrup, and you get the acidity flavor from the sumac. So you can, if you don't have sumac, what I would recommend doing is cutting up chiffonade or really thin slice sage, culinary sage. I would do about 2 cups of maple per 1/2 cup of culinary sage, chopped up. Or if you're using prairie sage, that's a bit stronger. So I would bring down the amount and use about 1/4 cup of the prairie sage to 2 cups of maple syrup. All right, so let me move the cutting board. I'm going to put the bowl here, and we're going to start plating the food. All right. I'm going to bring the camera down.
You have some mouths watering here over here in the chat.
All right, let me see. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. Moving the stuff that I don't need right now.
And then Jarita says that she's going to be saving the recipe, and she will make sure to forage some chaga, rams, and sumac next year. Yeah, definitely. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and check out my YouTube channel. I have a lot of easy-made recipes on my channel, and you can definitely change that up as well to whatever ingredients you like. So, okay, so here we go. What is your YouTube channel? Yazzie the Chef TV. All right, so now I'm going to add the, let's see. All right. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to grab some of the duck breast that I have here. It's just me eating duck breast, so I'm not using any gloves. For feeding the elders and feeding the community, we'll have gloves on while we're doing this. So I'm just going to do about 5 duck breast. Turn that. 1 second. So you start the from here, it's your own canvas. As a cook, as a chef, we're also artists. Empty bowl with empty plate is our canvas. So it's just depending on how you plate it.
Sorry, so give me 1 second.
Okay.
One more thing.
You just got a whole wah. And another one says, looks delicious, me good.
Or here's some dehydrated sage that we have here on hand. Then I have some leftover, where is it at? Leftover ramp. Last season from over the spring. Dehydrated. So. All right. Now I'm going to grab some of the fat that we have here. So just a little bit of it, just the crumbs. I'm just going to put that on top, just to give it some flavor. There might be fat, but it's good fat. It's not the type of fat that we have every day. It's from a wild game as well, too.
We have another. We have another chef on here, and he says, Chef David Lee says this entree is absolutely stunning. Plated.
Thank you. I mean, it's definitely seasoned right now, with the duck and depending on what region you're in, for sure. So this is what we have. We have the I can move the camera closer. All right. So we have the Heirloom Squash and Chaga Soup. And it came with it had garlic, onion powder, cracked black pepper, juniper berries, salt. All that was grinded up, mixed in with the sumac. We mixed in with the chaga and the squash, and then the maple and sumac glazed duck breast. Then the candied walnuts. You don't have to candy the walnuts. You can just toast it yourself. And then some wild ranch from last season, and then the dehydrated culinary sage that we have on there. This is definitely a good lunch or dinner, depending. But right now, it's something that's in season, so it's something that you can definitely get. All right. You guys have more questions? Let me fix the camera.
No questions yet. Is there, once the pandemic is over and all of that, is there a chance for people to taste test in real time your meals?
Yes, so like I said with the cafe, we're looking at a new concept. So we're going to be updating the menu. We're going to have more of a seasonal menu, going more with the 4 seasons. So like every other month, the menu will definitely change. Like right now, if the cafe was open, this will be on the menu. So we don't have a set menu moving forward, when we open. So it'll always be changing, because we don't want to be stuck in one type of menu. We want to show people the landscape that we live on. We want to show it seasonally of what's in season, and how to use these ingredients.
Can you tell us why it is important for Indigenous people to connect and cook with Indigenous foods?
It's part of our identity. For example, here, one of the main reasons why I'm helping feed the elders is because there are a lot of hope. There are some of these elders are holding on to our language, holding on to our art, holding on to our ceremonies. There's some of the last people in the community who are holding on to that. So just looking at that perspective, and that's the reason why I do this type of work, because it's also the sharing your own narrative, right? For me, being Navajo from the Southwest, and I'm able to be given this opportunity to cook here on Dakota land, and cooking with some Ojibwe people as well. So it's just, we're all indigenous to a certain place and time. It's just knowing your ancestral roots, and especially during this time with the pandemic, it's something that we have to definitely try and revitalize. And basically it's just going back to basics, knowing what's beyond the grocery store, knowing what's grown in your backyard, and knowing what time of season to harvest.
Sorry, I was muted. We're at 4 o'clock, but I wanted to ask one last question. Like if there's somebody on this, watching this right now and they're young or they're of whatever age and they're just like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. What is your advice to them?
My advice would be reclaiming your space. You know, for me, I'm reclaiming the kitchen space. You know, so it's part of decolonizing the metaphor that's popular right now, decolonization. You know, so for me, you know, being a chef and being able to use my skills and my knowledge, you know, it's reclaiming the kitchen space and decolonizing that space. You know, and making it not just about me, but about the community and the people that work with me. You know, so definitely, for example, going to culinary school, you know, it was definitely a challenging situation because the past 2.5 years of being there, because I was the only native student for the past 3 semesters. You know, that I finally had a couple of native culinary students that came in. But from the beginning, it was more like watching Master Chef or Chop Challenge. You know, it was more of an ego in the kitchen. You know, so but I learned how to deal with that in culinary school. You know, so it's definitely knowing where you're coming from and not forgetting your roots.
Okay, one last question before we let you go. What would your wife, and I just thought of this now, what would your wife say is your favorite dish?
Would be my favorite dish.
Yes, what would she say?
Um,
And then
okay, yeah,
what would you say?
I'll probably say bison ribeye and with wild rice pilaf. You know, I like to do wild rice pilaf during the spring when you get the wild onions. You know, I like that flavor with wild rice. You know, and I like the long grain wild rice. You know, to me, the lighter the color, I like more. That's my perspective. And but yeah, wild rice pilaf with I like to do a cedar butter. So when you heat up, for example, when you heat up butter, you know, you get it nice and liquid. Then you can toss in a couple of cedar leaves, and then pour the butter into a container and put it in the fridge for a couple hours. You know, then just scrape out what you need. And usually, you know, just a small amount goes a long way when you're using cedar. You know, so I usually use that at the end when I'm searing the bison or any type of meat. You know, at the end, just glaze on some of that cedar butter. You do the same thing with sage as well.
Okay, thank you. So there's a lot of people that when they registered for the class, they sent me a message like, hey, can we give you some money for hosting this show? But I want for people to, because I know that have um, you have put out a call for donations for the work that you do, and if you could give us where to go for these people if they want to donate to that
Yeah, yeah, definitely go to my Instagram page, Yazzie the Chef on Instagram or even on Twitter, and you'll see a couple of links and a couple of flyers with the work that we're doing here. So we have volunteers here in the kitchen, and they're not on the staff payroll, for example. So what we're doing, just quickly explain, is we're trying to do crowdfunding to help keep these volunteers sustainable when they're out at home as well, to help pay their bills or however they need to get from point A to point B. You know, so that's one thing that I've been pushing since the beginning is, you know, if you're able to donate a couple dollars or even share the flyer, you know, go to my Instagram page or go to my Twitter page, and you'll see the flyer that says feeding our elders. So definitely I have my Venmo and I have my PayPal link on the flyer as well. Or if you can't find that, just definitely message me on any of those social media platforms.
Okay, and Becky just put it in the chat for people. So and your Venmo. Thank you, Becky. So if you feel in your hearts to give.
You know, it's a really simple dish, like I said. You know, with the recipe, you can't go wrong with it. You know, you can add any type of flavor you want to the base of the soup. You know, so I definitely recommend. You know, if you're interested in spicy, you know, I would try like smoked paprika and just a little bit of cayenne pepper. So chili powder might be a bit stronger, but just cayenne pepper and just a little bit of cayenne will be good.
Okay, you're getting a lot of thank yous, and I also want to say Chimigwich for sharing your culinary amazingness with us. I just want to thank our funders again, which are the Minnesota Department of Human Services Behavioral Health Division and First Nations Development Institute for sponsoring this session with Brian Yazzie. And thank you all for joining us. You're still getting a lot of chimigwich. Thank you, Brian. You know, and I'm saving the chat, so I'll send you the chat, Brian, so you can see where everybody's from and all that. So thank you, everybody, and I'm gonna end the session now. Okay, thanks, Brian. Say hi to your wife.